In today's video, I'm going to share with you a very powerful and simple self-hypnosis hack to be able to rewire your mindset so that you can start to shift what you're seeing in your outside world. Now, this is going to work whether it comes to your relationships, your health, or even your finances. And what I'm going to share with you is actually so simple. Some of you may not even use it because it really just is that easy. And so before I dive into that, I want to share with you a book that I recently read, which is called Be the Pack Leader. This is by Cesar Milan, otherwise known as the Dog Whisperer. And this is by far one of the best books I've ever read on human psychology, especially when it comes to leadership. So I'll give you the 30,000 foot view. I'm going to read to you just a couple passages in here and how it relates to you and shifting what you're seeing in your outside world. And then I'm going to give you the simple 5-step process of how to use self-hypnosis to start to change that. And I'm telling you right now, when you use this technique, you will instantly start to see things shift in your reality, okay? So to give you the 30,000 foot view of this book is all about how your dog is showing up in your life is really a reflection of you. And 99% of the time when people are having issues with their dogs, it's really not the dog themselves, it's something going on within them that's reflecting in their animal. And one of the things that I teach in a lot of the different approaches and philosophies is whatever we're seeing in our outside world is a reflection of what's going on internally in our subconscious mind. This comes down to our beliefs, our internal dialogue. And so if you think about it, if you think of a projector, okay? A projector projects an image or a video onto a screen. Now, what does the projector project out onto that screen? Well, it's whatever is being programmed or fed into the projector itself. Now, it's the same thing with us in our reality. Whatever we're seeing in our outside world is a reflection of what is being programmed into our subconscious mind, whether you're conscious of it or not, okay? So that's a 30,000 foot view of this book. And I want to share with you just 3 quick paragraphs, which are so profound. You know, I've read hundreds and hundreds of books over the years. This is definitely one of my top 3 favorites I've read so far. So this is really powerful. So check this out. Researchers have seen again and again how emotions spread irresistibly in this way whenever people are near one another, even when the contact is completely nonverbal. So one of the big things he talks about is when you're communicating with your dog, it's mostly nonverbal and emotional. So whatever you're feeling, the dog is going to feel and act that way, right? So that's the context. For example, when 3 strangers are sitting facing each other in silence for a minute or two, the one who is most emotionally expressive transmits his or her mood to the other 2 without speaking a word. You know, this is something that I preach to my team all the time. Whoever is more convinced of how they feel will always influence their environment and the people around them. So in other words, if you're more angry than somebody is at being calm, you will influence that person to become angry, and vice versa. If you're more convinced at being calm and at peace, you can take a group of angry people and calm them down, all because of your energy, okay? To continue. The results of negative energy can literally have lethal consequences. This is so amazing. Nurses in cardiac care units who were grumpy and depressed had a 4 times higher death rate than those in units where nurses' moods were more balanced. So imagine that for a second. That's just not by happenstance. You know, when we are in a bad mood, our environment will start to reflect that. Maybe you're having issues when you go out to drive and suddenly it seems like everybody's driving like crazy. Maybe it's showing up in your finances or you're getting sick all the time. Well, it's because of the energy, the emotional feelings that you're expressing are showing up in your physical environment, okay? Now this one is this next passage is completely mind-blowing, okay? So check this out. Emotional Intelligence. So this is a book written by, again, Daniel Goleman. Tells a fascinating story of a firefight between American and Viet Cong troops during the early Vietnam conflict. Suddenly, in the middle of the shooting, a line of 6 monks appeared and started walking along the rice paddies between the 2 separate sides. So in other words, the Americans and Viet Congs are shooting at each other, and these monks, 6 monks, appear out of nowhere, and they start walking in the middle of a firefight. One of the American soldiers, David Bush, later described the amazing incident. He said, "They didn't look left, they didn't look right. They walked straight through. And it was really strange because nobody shot at them. And suddenly the fight was out of me. I just didn't feel like I wanted to do this anymore, at least not that day. It must have been that way for everybody because everybody quit. We just stopped fighting." What did the monks do to create this miraculous event? They sent powerful emotional signals, peaceful signals, that apparently were more powerful than the hateful signals of the warring soldiers. Although this is a very extreme example, it gives you an idea of how the strength and intention of the energy we project can profoundly affect and change the others around us. Imagine that. Imagine, the emotion of hate, which is a very strong emotion for people when they're fighting for their lives, and these 6 monks appeared and projected this energy of peace and calm, and suddenly they stopped fighting. Now, I know it may seem unbelievable. There's many anecdotes of 20 to 30 people getting together, going to a city and meditating and projecting those feelings of peace, of calm, of harmony. And then all of a sudden, within a month, the car accident rates go down, the murder rates go down, all the crime starts to go down just by simply a small group of people projecting these energies of peace. Now, this goes to show you how powerful we truly are and how the emotions we're expressing will influence our environment. Again, the projector, what's being projected and programmed into our mind, projecting outward, okay? Now, the last little part here, this has to do with self-hypnosis, and then I'm gonna dive into my whiteboard here and give you the 5 steps. Super, super easy, okay? So he goes on to talk about, he's training this woman of how to go on her walks. And one of the things that I learned from this book is when you're walking your dogs, it's very important to set your intention before you go. And when you don't set your intention, you usually have issues, but when you set your intentions, you get a great walk. Now, much like acting exercises, visualization techniques are another behavior I suggest to clients who are struggling with the concept of calm, assertive leadership. Though some may find this approach simplistic, thousands of athletes, CEOs, world leaders, students, military officers, entertainers, and others would never even think of doing their jobs or even starting their days without visualization. I've worked with many UFC athletes, NFL athletes, Navy SEALs, highly successful 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs from all over the world. And I can tell you that the most successful people that I've ever worked with practice self-hypnosis and practice these visualization techniques. Because when you're starting to visualize, especially when you're going into something, rather than just jumping right in, you're setting your intention of how you want that interaction to go, okay? So last little part here. Sometimes visualization involves taking a moment before an event to play the whole thing out successfully in your mind, writing a story with a happy ending. If clients are having trouble with their dogs on a walk, for example, after correcting their physical techniques, I tell them to script their walks in their imagination. So what he means by their physical techniques is there's the energy, the emotion of what you're projecting. There's also the tactics of what you're doing, right? So one thing I learned in this book is that when you go to walk your dog, before you walk out the door and before you even put the leash on them, is you have to make sure that your dogs are calm. Because if they're too excited and you go on the walk, they're gonna be excited and their energy is gonna be all over the place. So one thing is you bring them up to the door, you have them calm down, and then you put on their leash. And the next thing you do is when you open the door, it's really important that you don't let the dogs just dart out the door. Because what that shows is that they're the ones in control. They're the leaders of the pack. And you'll see people when they're walking their dogs, if their dogs are way out in front of them, it's because they're not leading the dog is leading them. So an important tactic is for you to exit the door first and then invite your dogs out. And then as you're walking, you always make sure your dog is beside you or behind you, again, because you're the leader of the pack. So that would be an example of a strategy or of a technique. Now, it's important to have both, right? It's important to have the emotional side of what we're projecting out, the intention and the thoughts that we're having, and simultaneously knowing what to do, right? Now, often I see in business and with people I work with is they're focusing on the techniques. They're really good at the to-do and the how-to, except when they do it, they're doing it with the wrong energy. And if you are doing it with the wrong energy, it's gonna create a conflict and actually do the opposite of what you're trying to achieve, right? So that's what he's talking about with the strategies. So here we go. So as Tina Madden, Nunu owner, Nunu's a dog, tells us her success story in chapter 1, when she was in the process of transforming Nunu, again her dog, and her life, it was important for her to visualize passing by barking dogs and ignoring them. She had to do it over and over again. But when the real situation occurred, she was able to switch over in her mind to the visualization. Some people take visualization to its extreme, self-hypnosis. So in this book, he talks about hypnosis. Much has been written about both visualization and self-hypnosis by psychologists, psychiatrists, and self-help gurus. They will tell you that visualization takes practice to be truly effective. You probably won't get it on the first time. You try, but the mind becomes more and more powerful every time you do these exercises. I see this all the time with our clients, especially people who are new to this, is they do a visualization process for 1, 2, 3 days and they give up. Okay, this stuff does take practice, and I'm going to show you how you can actually implement something today that you will immediately, I'm talking like right now, will start to see a difference in your environment. Okay, so last part here. Inner dialogue is another powerful technique that can greatly improve the communication between you and your dog, or you and the world. So many of our clients talk to their dogs constantly. They take in full sentences on subject ranging from what the dog's dinner to the state of internal politics. This is good for therapy. This is good therapy for the human, of course, but it's not usually effective to get better behavior of your best friend. Many times when you're asking your dog to do something using words, you really should be talking to yourself. Okay, for instance, and it goes on to tell this example. So essentially what that's saying is that rather than, when we're talking to people, right? Let's say you're a business owner or you're a salesperson and you're selling your product and service. There's what you're saying, and then there's also the inner dialogue of what you're saying to yourself. And what you're saying to yourself is so much more important than what's actually being said, because whatever you're saying to yourself internally will project out in your tonality, in your facial expressions, and in your body language. And as we know, 93% of communication is your tonality and your body language, and the 7% is the words you're actually saying. So it's not the words that we're communicating, although they are important. It's what we're communicating to ourselves as we're communicating those words to other people. So let's dive into the 5 simple steps of how you can start to rewire these things. And again, this is a powerful practice, whether it comes to your relationships, your health, your finances, and just overall living a more happy and joyful life, okay? So first thing you want to do is you want to identify, okay, the target area. Okay, it's simple, it's pretty self-explanatory. What does this mean? Well, what area are you seeing a negative pattern show up that you would like to rewire or to shift? So is it a pattern of how you communicate with your family? Is it a pattern of how things are showing up for you in your finances? Is it a pattern of what's going on with your health and overeating or missing the gym or whatever it may be? So target that right now. As a matter of fact, comment down below what target area that you're going to work on. Okay, this will help you remember this and actually follow through with this process. So comment down below, okay, I'm going to work on my health. I'm going to work on my finances. I'm going to work on my whatever, okay? Number 2 is you want to close your eyes, okay, and relax. And you can do this, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just relax. This will take 10 to 20 seconds to do. Super, super simple, okay? Then you're going to ask yourself, what am I saying to myself when blank, okay? So you close your eyes, you take a couple deep breaths, you say, what am I saying to myself when I skip the gym every day? What am I saying to myself when I overeat those unhealthy foods? What am I saying to myself when I get lazy and I don't want to take action? What am I saying to myself when I go on a date and things don't seem to work out? So you identify the area and then you ask yourself, okay, what's the internal dialogue? What am I saying to myself when I'm in these situations? Now, what you're doing, most people, and I'd say almost everybody, until they do a process like this, is completely unconscious to their negative internal dialogue, okay? So just by identifying it alone is gonna be a huge leap, because then you can start to notice, oh shoot, when I get in this situation, I'm saying all these negative things to myself, okay? So this brings me to my 3rd point, which is, okay, you're still with your eyes closed, and what you say is, okay, what am I going to say to myself instead, okay? In other words, what's the opposite of what you're telling yourself, the internal dialogue that you're projecting out? So if you're saying, let's say you wake up and you keep hitting the snooze button. Okay, when you go back into that time, okay, what am I saying to myself when I hit the snooze button? Man, I'm so tired. Just sleep in a little bit longer. Okay, good. Now we know that the negative. Okay, what am I going to say to myself instead? You know what? Get up out of bed. Get up out of bed. Go for it. Get dressed. Go to the gym, right? Let's say when it comes to, let's say you're on a sales call or you're in business and you're negotiating. Okay, what am I saying to myself? Oh man, this person doesn't like me. They're probably not going to sign up for this. Okay, what's the opposite? I'm going to make a really deep connection with this person. They're going to see the value and move forward with my products and services. Okay, so you want to, again, identify what you're saying wrong. And I've done this with, again, UFC fighters, people that are at the highest level of athletics and in business. And this is the stuff that we do, okay? So figure out what's the opposite of what you're going to say and make sure you state it in positive language, okay? Number 4, once you identify that, you want to repeat it and practice it. And you want to do this until you virtually almost get tired of doing it, okay? And there's a saying, we don't do things until we do it right. We do it until we cannot get it wrong, okay? So what happens is sometimes when people are making these shifts is they start to do it right, but then they stop. They go, okay, I did it right, I'm done. No. You want to do it until you cannot get it wrong. In other words, it becomes unconscious. It becomes part of who you are. So in this case, you keep repeating it. So you write it down and you just look at it, read it, say it to yourself over and over and over. And you might have to do this quite a few times. And then eventually what will happen is it just becomes a pattern. It becomes part of who you are. So now when you're going on that date, you're saying, I'm going to connect with this person. We're going to have an amazing time. Now when your alarm clock goes up, you say, get up out of bed and go get after it. Now we're in that sales situation. You say, man, I'm really going to connect with this person. We're going to have an amazing call and they're going to see the value in what I'm sharing. And I'm telling you, I've literally shared these techniques with my team. I've shared these with our clients and they see immediate. I'm talking like that day, okay? And listen, even if you're in an interaction, and let's say in a negotiation context, and the negotiation doesn't go how you thought, doesn't matter. You still continue to do this because if you were to do, let's say you did this dialogue with 100 different people versus this dialogue, the positive dialogue with 100 different people, you are going to see 3 to 5x the results by doing it this way. So even though it may not be 100% every single time, you still keep doing it over and over again, regardless of whatever feedback you're getting, okay? Now, once you repeat it and you practice it, okay, say it out loud, say it to yourself, read it, experience it, really feel what you're projecting, then you just revisit it, okay, from time to time, all right? So what does that look like? Well, let's say you do this for a strong, solid week every single day. Every call you're about to get on with a client, you do it. Okay, you read your deal, you say it to yourself a few times, you say it out loud, and then boom, you start your call. And you talk to 30, 40 people that week. Okay, good, now it's gonna start being ingrained. Then you go the next week and maybe you do it a couple times, and then eventually you stop doing it, okay? Even though we know these things, it's always good to give a refresher and a reminder to put it into our conscious awareness, meaning that we're aware that we're doing it and we're making that a habit. So again, once you have it installed, go back and just revisit it. And you'd be surprised that when you think that, oh, I can't improve it anymore, or there's nothing else I can do, or I already know this, I already got this, and you do it again, you will start to see those immediate results show up in your life. Now guys, if you love this kind of content, you're like, man, I would really love to learn how to continue to program my subconscious mind for success for yourself, or maybe you even feel called to help others, I've actually put a link down in the description for you to book a free assessment with my team to do a deeper dive into, what are some of these things that are holding you back, these beliefs and internal dialogues that are keeping you from achieving your goals, and how do we start to rewire those things so that they become unconscious? And I'll tell you this, hypnosis is the fastest way and most effective way to make those actual permanent changes. So it becomes part of who you are and you don't have to constantly sit there and do it over and over again. So if that sounds like you and you want to do deeper work, click the link down in the description and book your free assessment with my team now.